Because I can't put music in the background or I'll get a copyright strike, I'll just have to include a bunch of links in the description, including I See Fire by Ed Sheeran, All at Once by Jack Johnson, Ænema by Tool, and Eulogy by Tool, along with some other songs. But this is the culmination of the artwork that I've created over the last year or two that I was hoping might generate some interest at some point, that might even result in people taking this set to different places. You know, like when Cirque du Soleil, the circus shows up and people buy tickets just to come see it. So I'm going to go over these pieces one at a time, but I'm going to put each one of them in the sunlight where you can actually see them good and basically get still shots of each one. But I thought I'd just go over the set real quick, and then we'll go over each individual piece, because there's quite the collection I've amassed here. So I'll go ahead now and get a setup where the camera is stationary to where I can get good still frames of each of these in the sunlight right about there. And then just turn it and take a still frame, turn it and let the video keep rolling just for a minute or, you know, a couple seconds on each piece. And then I'll also be going over at the end of this video, it'll probably be a 2 or 3 part video, these other pieces of the plasma fire phenomenon, including some of these pine cones, the melted rivets of aluminum that you see running down the street. They look like this when they're face down. Peel them up off the street and they have the imprint of the road in the bottom side, and the top side is nice and smooth surface. Some that are like this with lots of little tiny sticks embedded within them, to where the molten aluminum actually molds around the unburnt wood, which shows the temperature differential between the pieces of wood and the molten aluminum surrounding it. And this is there's also other things like this. The fine line burn here. I actually broke the edges off, but I'll include a link in the description of the original. Before I broke these edges off, it was a perfectly fine line burn all the way around. And it locks back into place just like that. These are the phenomenon of plasma fire that don't happen in regular fire. There's some melted glass. There's the differential between the melted part of this bumper and the unmelted part. Again, I'll make sure and get all these in the sunlight with a camera held still on a stationary tripod kind of thing. And the difference between the temperature of the burn here, the burn line. Regular fire doesn't make rocks burn like that. So let's go ahead and get this stationary. So this is one of my favorite pieces because it has so many curved burn lines that follow the wood grain, and it's sitting on a table that I've made into a fire lamp that projects the light, and it has a fan that turns those little pieces of tissue into something simulating flame. But first, just to get these two pieces out of the way so they're not sitting in the backdrop, these are two half trees. And as you can see, the inside of the tree, there's not much to see there other than it's burnt completely all the way through on all sides, which is the inside, on the inside I should say. And the burn line where the inside meets the outside creates a fine line burn where the flame never goes past that burn line because it's electricity flowing through the inside of the piece of wood of the tree. and it actually produces something like a flameless fire. And that's how you get burn lines like this, because otherwise this would create a flame that goes up and touches this, but it doesn't. This also has this bent wood effect. And it's just propped up there at the bottom. It's actually pretty stable with that tripod. Most of these need some sort of base put on them in order to stabilize them. And this one's also a half tree. So you could put a flame lamp behind here and it would work really well for being able to produce the burning tree effect. And these pieces of wood bend in this way due to the electricity flowing through them. I believe it is the same phenomenon we see in crop circles that bends the barley or the wheat or whatever medium the energy is projected into, like a laser with a stencil on the end, and that's how they create crop circle patterns. But this energy is projected into a forest and it bends the wood in a very similar fashion. Without the stencil on the end of the laser to create the pattern in the smaller medium of wheat or barley, it still bends the wood. And I'll include a link in the description that shows this very clearly out in the place where I got some of these from. This one is also a half tree, but it stands pretty well on its own. Ooh, I got a spider on me. The other thing is, it'd be nice if someone would maybe put these under the right lighting with a good camera in order to truly convey what there is to see, rather than an amateur like myself using a cell phone camera. Want to get some close-ups here of this burn line that follows the grain and does a 180-degree curve, along with these burn lines that show that it burns hotter on the knot than the surrounding wood around it, and how it has thoroughly burned here and here with unburn in between, along with unburn in here but a burn streak. And this burn goes in lightning bolts that run through the wood grain. I don't know if that was even recording when I said what I just said, but what I'm pointing out here is that the burn follows the grain lines, and how we have unburn in here, but thoroughly burned there and there, along with this burn line that follows the grain around this curve right there, and how the burn goes through the wood like lightning bolts running through the wood following the grain, leaving highly burned on either side of the unburned. And I got a lot of glare on my screen, but the color that it leaves in here is because it stains the wood from the inside. allowing you to see the grain in a different way than you can on regular wood or stained wood. Producing some unique gold and red, and you can see kind of a metallic color within there. Here's a pretty good example where you can see the burn line follows the grain of the wood and how it highlights the actual grain, kind of brings it out by adding that contrast of stain within the grain. This is the kind of stuff that would really pay off if we had like a professional cameraman with really good lighting that could actually bring out some of this stuff that you can see in person a lot better than through a cell phone camera. And finally, that curved burn, there's a lot of that going on in this piece. And it happens with a lot of the pieces where that burn line follows the curvature of the grain. This one really highlights it pretty good. Along with those metallic red and gold colors that are kind of hard to get the right lighting and get the right angle to get the camera to pick it up. But I think we did it pretty good this time. And so that's this piece that works really well. You can kind of see how the burnt wood actually kind of curves into flame-like shapes. Little points and flames of burnt wood sticking out all over. So, I call this one Flaming Unicorn, because that's what it looks like. You can even see the mane sticking down over here. There's the horn, there's the ear, there's the nose and mouth, there's the eye. Flaming Unicorn. I think a place where they do horses, would really appreciate this one. They'd be able to see the unicorn feature. And it's got some spots on it that really bring out the grain with the color. Those reds and golds and metallic stain inside the grain. That would come out really nice with a professional photographer and some good lighting. So with the right lighting, you get the you can kind of get rid of that glare that comes off the sheen of the lacquer and just see through it. It's hard to tell when I got the lighting right, so we'll just let that be. It's got a lot of the same features where it burns hotter on the knot and then unburned in between highly burned areas. Right, flaming unicorn, do your little turn on the catwalk. Here's a little different spot with some of that same. The burn follows the grain, kind of shows the red and gold metallic colors in there. Yep. This one is horned serpent. And it's got some of those reds and golds. Uh-oh, they're on to us. This is actually kind of unusual. You don't usually see this out here. Signs of the times, I guess. Anyway, that's not what we're here to look at. This one's got a nice hole right down the middle for the fire lamp effect. So there's horned serpent, and they don't all have names. There's just a few that kind of look like these weird images. Like you can kind of see, it's got like the mouth and the eye and the horns. And because I feel like I need to speed this up a little bit, these two over here, this one and this one, are just sticks that show the burn, kind of follows the grain in a spiral pattern. I'll get up and twist those around. But this one that's tied at the base has these three sticks that start out round at the bottom, inch diameter wood, and burns to the top in the shape of a reed, like what grows out of water. But it only burns on one side. Starting out as a perfectly round stick, starting here. And the other thing about it is you can see the burn line that runs right here along this one, along the burn side. You can see the burn line that continues right there. Likewise with another one of these that displays the same effect. I'm not sure if we were even able to see what I was trying to show you there. This burn line runs along that stick right here on the burn side. They all have a burn side and an unburned side, and along the burn side you can follow the burn line all the way down. think you're being able to see what I'm saying, maybe, hopefully. This is why we need a professional cameraman to take the reins here. But you can see they burn right down to a fingernail width. Burnt on this side, unburnt on the back side. Yeah, this just isn't doing it justice. I'm almost ready to just call it quits. And that's pretty much what this video is about. Yep. Yeah, I can't even see what I'm looking at with the glare and the lens and all. So it burns them to the shape of reeds that grow out of water, and it only burns them on one side. They start out at the bottom as all the same diameter, fully round sticks, burning their way up to a very thin point, only burnt on this side, unburnt on that side, and they all burnt on the same side. Okay. This one, we got a spiral burn pattern. This stick produced the same pattern. It's down to a thin reed up here, only burns on this side, and you can see the burn line along the burn side, unburned on this side, burned on this side, but down here it's still a round branch with a perfectly straight burn line going up each side. And as it goes up, it ends up becoming the same shape. Burnt on this side, unburnt on this side, right up to the top. So that's the burn side that you can follow all the way down. And see that on either side, even down here where the branch is still round, it still has that straight burn line. And on these branches over here, it produces the same effect. Burnt only on one side to a thin reed shape at the one end. Unburnt on this side to a reed shape, a tip at the end. Burnt on that side. So as the branch was growing, the electricity came up. Man, I can't see anything between the glare and the... it came up through the plant and went out that way. That's why this side is burnt on both branches. This side is burnt all the way up to where it turns into a thin reed, with this side being burnt. Likewise on this one, this side is burnt, this side is unburnt. So as it came up, it went through both of these branches and went out that side. Thinking this might actually show up better without the light. See how thin this one has burned, but still only burnt on the one side? And down here at the bottom where the branch is still round, it still gives a perfectly straight burn line going up the stick. It's really too bad. That more interest hasn't been shown in this. So you can see on all three branches, they all burnt on the same side that were pointing the same way. And that's where the roots came together in the ground. I think it might be because of the implications of what this means, is why people don't want to see it, have no interest in it. You can see the burn line on this one. Here it's still round, perfectly round stick, but it has that burn line that follows on the same side all the way down the stick. This one shows how it burns it to a point on each one of these. And that's where it was tied into the ground. Yep. And you can see also how it burns hottest on the knot. So these all burn to points. Pretty sharp points too when you're walking through the burnt Promethean forest and these are sticking up all over, trying to trip you with one foot and impale you with the next. So you can see how this is burnt on the end, but unburnt here. It's kind of got some of the cool colors and burn lines that follow the grain as well. So yeah, it's a precarious thing when you're walking through one of these forests that just burned using this type of fire, and all the sticks on the ground are sharp points. I'm gonna see if I can't squeeze these other 10 trees in 3 minutes and call it a day. Because it took me quite a while to pull these out here, and it's just another defeating example of the lack of interest people show. In fact, I probably won't even upload this. This will probably just be my last defeating acceptance that no one knows, no one cares, no one wants to see it. In fact, as soon as there's some burnt wood shown on one of the thumbnail photos, it gets half as many views as me just talking for 30 minutes. People don't care. They say, oh yeah, I already know, hashtag plasma apocalypse, EMPCO, I know. That way they can go on blissfully unaware, pretending as if they know, when they don't. Because you can't know if you don't care, and they don't care. How do I know? Because I've been doing this 3 years and I'm still the only one doing it. Which makes it painfully obvious no one cares. So after 3 years, it hurts to set you free, but you'll never follow me, as evidenced by the fact that I'm still the only one doing this. Everyone else is offering their helpful advice and suggestions and comments. But when you look at this, it shows the arrogance and hubris of people that offer their opinions and comments. And I'm supposed to weigh that, their opinions and comments, against the reality that I'm facing and dealing with, and trying to get anyone else who will face it and deal with it with me. And instead of, they offer their opinions and comments. Tell me, you ought to get a photo editor, you ought to do this, you ought to do that. Thanks, appreciate it. It's very helpful of you, offering your uninformed opinions. So now I just got to figure out what I'm going to do with all this, because it's just trash. If you ask anyone else, they can say otherwise, but their actions speak louder than their words. They have more important things to do, other priorities. Right, Tiger Doug? I'm real busy this week. Here in a couple weeks, I'll go back and get a second photo. Someone told me their daughter went to look at the glowing tree stumps. This is an unlacquered piece. Someone told me, and I got the text, he's going to try and get some photo and videos. His daughter went camping and said, yeah, Dad, me and Aunt whoever, we went and looked at all the glowing tree stumps. Glowing tree stumps, yeah, they glow, like the color of ambers in a fire. They're tree stumps that glow on the inside. The color of fire embers, like in a fireplace. Oh, really? And he's trying to figure out now where that campground is and where these glowing tree stumps are, because, well, they won't be glowing for long. I'm surprised, though. Here we are 3 years later. And we're still here. I truly did not expect that. Didn't expect it to take this long. But maybe that's just so that we know those who aren't coming with have been given ample amount